Hi, Guy. How are you?
Good, mate. How you doing?
I am doing very well. Thank you very much
You're an
indeed.
Englishman in the middle of this. Where are you living?
I'm in Plymouth, down in the
Okay.
southwest of England.
Okay.
So
Beautiful.
I've just had the most English of snacks. I've just had Marmite on toast. So
Brilliant.
I'm still not a Vegemite man, sir. No, no offense.
No, that's quite all right. I'm not offended.
So congrats on the film. It's right up my street, actually, because I
Really?
love
Great.
westerns and I love kind of any horror movie, supernatural, anything like that. So this was right on the money for me. And the first thing I wanted to ask you about westerns, because I know you've done sort of three or four, and you've done some contemporary ones, because they've got a very distinct, they're a very distinct world and tone, and I wondered what it is about stepping into that world that speaks to you personally, and why have you kept returning to it?
Well, I mean, it's I don't return to them for any specific reason other than I think when a character is plonked out in the desert on their own, there's a kind of a highlighted magnifying quality to it. All of the, I suppose, all of the questions that a character might have about themselves, all the difficulties, all the kind of the existential stuff is just amplified when you're out in, I think when you're, I mean, that stuff can be amplified anywhere really, but if you're a character in a big city with lots of people around them, uh, that can act as a distraction. Whereas a character who really, has to survive. And the thing about being out in the wilderness is it immediately brings a heightened level of survival, I suppose. And that might be the same for a character who's stuck out on a desert island or stuck out on a boat or stuck out in space or um, uh, so so I suppose it's some of the extremities of that I'm drawn to. Obviously, it has to be a good script and it has to be a story that I find interesting and characters that make sense, etc., and
Mm.
character that I can relate to. So it's not that I'm out there looking for westerns per se. Um, but I know you're referring to the Proposition and the Rover, which was obviously sort of semi-futuristic. But for the same reasons, I guess, that it's sort of you and the landscape, you know,
Mm.
and you better have your wits about you, and you know, you better you're forced to ask questions about yourself, I think. And I like that in a character. I like playing that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned being out there in the landscape, and um, if I may say so, you're still looking remarkably fit, Guy.
Thanks.
Your your torso does not lie in the film, so you're still looking in great shape. And what were the physical demands on this film like? Obviously there's riding, you're running across some quite rugged terrain. Do you still enjoy those more physically challenging aspects of a role?
I do, but they get harder as I get older, particularly if I injure myself. That now seems to, I find every 10 years an injury lasts twice as long again, twice as long again, and I can sprain my ankle these days and it seems like 12 months later I'm still feeling it. Whereas,
I, I
so I'm
I
very
know,
careful.
I know.
Yeah. So I'm more often than not handing it over to the stunt guy this time. They're like, "Well, Guy, we want you to fall off here and da 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 da. We've got the stunt guy who's going to do it." And now I'm saying, "Great, that'll look great." And then we'll come in for my fantastic. Whereas when in my 20s, I was fighting to do everything myself. So I do enjoy that stuff, and I enjoy it also because I can do it. I'm quite physical, and I also find that yeah, it just sort of helps the process. If I'm the one that can scale down from that wall and continue into the shot where I've then got the dialogue, then you've got all that in one. Um, so yeah, it's a nice challenge, but it is harder. It's that sort of stuff's harder
Yeah,
than it. Yeah, yeah. You got to stay
yeah, that's the
fit.
trouble.
You got to stay
Yeah,
fit as well.
exactly. Yeah,
Hugh
yeah.
Jackman's got it all going on. So
In fairness, guys, some people are a bit freakish, aren't they? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh, and Hugh's a bit freakish, I reckon. I mean, I'm sure he works very hard in the gym. I've never worked out with you, but I would be intimidated, I reckon.
um, I spoke to DeWanda earlier, and we sort of touched on the fact that obviously it's if you look at it at a superficial level, if you see like the trailer in the theaters or whatever, it's a supernaturally tinged western, but there's a lot of layers in there. There's a lot of things to unpack. You know, there's violence, oppression, inequality, motherhood, faith versus logic. What was the key thing that jumped out at you when you first read the script?
Well, funnily enough, the all of the extremes that live side by side in the script, in the kind of the slightly dark humorous tone that Ned created in the script, I found all very engaging. And I'd seen Ned's previous film, and uh, I found he sort of inhabits a kind of a Coen Brothers quality, where he kind of he plays things for real, but there's kind of a slightly ironic twist to everything. So something can be extremely violent, like in Coen Brothers movies,
Mm,
but you kind of awkwardly laugh at it and carry on. And you think, wow, that's weird that I'm having that reaction. And I sort of had that reaction when I read this script. Um, and Ned's delightful. I mean, he's a really funny guy, and he's just great to hang out with, and he's very smart. And he was also very gracious and sort of saying, look, Guy, you're the one with the film experience. So whatever you want to bring to this, I want to listen to. So he was very,
mm,
enabling, which of course was wonderful. But I said, look, of course, any thoughts that I have, I'll bring them, but I'm not going to step on your toes. And I don't want to, I'm not interested in bastardizing what you've created here. I love what you've created, and I want to get on board. So we found
mm.
a good, sort of connection, I think. And that was a big part of it for me as well, was talking with him early on and just knowing that we could work well together. But, you know, the balance between good and evil, the balance between sort of Bender having this motivation to kind of find who he is, and if he's responsible for his past, and try to redeem himself, but at the same time just almost like an alcoholic, but so he's just in avoidant kind of behavior. All of those
Mm.
things working in conjunction were just fascinating things to read as an actor. And Ned wrote that stuff beautifully. So, it was a pretty easy one to sort of step straight into, to be honest. Um, and it was
Yeah,
good fun to do.
yeah. I mean, that kind of seeks nicely into what I was going to say next, because obviously this is just his third feature, I believe. Um, and I was wondering, obviously you've talked a lot about his collaboration, really. I think we covered that, but did he bring any approach or insight that were maybe new to your experience?
Well, I mean, I think everybody does, just because that they bring their own personality. So it wasn't like he brought things where I went, wow, that's an interesting way to work. I never would have thought of doing that. It wasn't so much that. It was it was his openness to wanting to work to how I like to work. And every time I start any film, I sort of talk through with the producer and the director and everybody about what I need, what I don't need, because you've got 100 people running around trying to make something work, and they're quite often people are projecting onto you, thinking what you might need. So they're kind of
Mm,
rushing up to you going, okay, we've got you this, we've got you that, we think you need this, we've organized these lessons for you, this. And I'm like, hang on a second, let me tell you what I need, and go from there, if that's okay. And Ned was one of the first people I'd ever worked with to to say that out loud straight away, to say,
mm,
I want to know what you want so that I can give that to you. And I said, well, the fact you've even said that to me, that's we're miles ahead already. This is brilliant. So, and I said, I'll certainly say to you, if I'm done with rehearsal, I don't want to rehearse anymore, I just want to shoot something now, then I'll certainly say that anyway. Um, but he was, yeah, well, I think we really empowered each other. He's just a great guy. You know, he's a really great guy, really funny, really smart, and very honest about his experience. And you know, he said, "Look, you've done like 70 movies, so." And I said, yeah, but I don't have all the answers. I said, every time we get into a little situation in a scene where you're not quite sure how you want to get that, and I'm not quite sure how I want to get it, well, let's work it out together, which we would do, you know. So it was great. It was a really good experience with him. It was awesome, and I would work with him again in a second. He's one of those people you go, yep, it's easy. Also because, you know, I've worked with plenty of people before who I very quickly go, oh, okay, we're not on the same page. Everything that actually you're saying to me is kind of getting in my way. You're trying to direct me, and it's really not helping. And I'm a bit of a control freak, so if someone's trying to mold me into a certain way and it's not working for me, then I'm going to resist it.
Yeah.
And so I've been in situations before where I'll say, look, I'll respectfully, you do your job and I'll do my job, and then those two things can come together. But it's much better if you've got a director who goes, what about this guy? And I go, oh, yes, what a great idea. Never would have thought of that. Or let's try that and see. You know, Ned was one of those people. And so, because then I'm not, if I'm in the first camp, then I'm only coming up with my box of tricks. Whereas if I'm with someone who's respectful enough but has ideas and isn't married to them, and we can try things, then I'll do stuff that I wouldn't have thought of before. And that's exciting to me, you know.
Well, that's great to hear. You've had such a positive experience, and you guys bonded really well. I mean, given the rap guy, I could talk to you for the rest of the day, I think. There's so much I'd love to ask you, but thank you so much for your time. Good luck with the film's release. I know for a fact that I'll be watching it again. I'm a big physical media fan, so that'll be added to the collection. So thank you, sir.
Oh, great.
And
no worries. Thank you,
take
mate.
care of
Good
yourself.
To you. All right, you too. Cheers.
There is such evil in this world. I'm not particularly one for evil. Well, what if you're wrong?